first thing we're going to talk about is Live's simpler instrument. This is the basic sampler that comes in Live. It's not a multi-sampler. It can't use multiple samples at the same time. It can only use one sample at a time. And it looks like this. If I go over here to my Ableton Live and I grab here, let's just kill these tracks here. And I'm going to go in here to my instruments and grab the simpler instrument and drag it down here. And if we look at this screen, this is what it looks like. It's just 2 pages really. You just got the sample page and you got the control page. And this it's deceptively simple because it can actually do quite a lot. And they made an update in like Live 9.6 or something a while ago now that really revolutionized and changed the way the simpler instrument can deal with samples. And it's very, very cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and drag in a couple different sounds for you to check out. So the first one I'm going to drag in is just a kind of a drum beat here. Let's see, what is emergence? Let's get a drums. Okay, so we're going to drag this one in here, and I'm going to drag it in. You can see that it shows me the sample down here in the corner. It's showing me the sample. And if here, let me just switch my view here so you can see my push here. If I hit play, right, so there it is. It's going to play that for us. And what I can do is I can go down here and I can turn on my loop. Actually, let me go ahead and put this like this. A little bit hard to see that one. All right, well, we'll just use this one here. I'll zoom in on this for you. So let me just see this real quick. Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. All right, so if I'm looking at this, we can see here I've got my loop. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Awesome sauce. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I've got my loop here. I can turn this on, and when I turn this loop button on, it'll loop for me. And I can press these buttons over here. Well, not that one. Let's see. Device. Okay, and when I play it, it's just going to play the normal way. Right. What I can do is I can go over here, I can click on my warp button here, and I can lock it into my tempo of my song. So now it's locked into the tempo of the song. Right. And if I play it at different pitches, it still sounds good. Right, so I can do that. I can turn off my loop. Right, and I can see all this stuff. Now, one thing I can do is with this one here, let's say I want to play this across a range of keys. Let's say I like all these. I don't want to play it as a loop, but I want to play it as individual drum hits. Well, I can go over here, I can click on the slice button here, and now it'll play it as individual drum kits, and you can see it slices up onto my push, and I can move these around, and I can also take them out by double clicking. I'll move this. Alright. I can move forward over here. And you can see how I can just go ahead and quickly edit these. And I can just click and drag up and down to zoom in and out with my magnifying tool there. and I can get rid of this one here. There we go. So now I've got all these different sounds in here. Pretty cool stuff. And you can see down here I've got a couple of different controls that I can use. So for example, mono playback right now, if I'm, let's play this one here. I've got this one here, I'm playing this one. And it won't let me play multiple slices back at the same time. What I can do is I can change the slice playback here to poly. And now it'll let me play multiple ones at the same time. And what this is doing is basically turning it into a quick and easy drum kit maker. So what this is allowing me to do is grab a loop, and let's say I like one of the sounds in the loop, I can grab a loop and I can quickly throw it in here and slice it up into pieces. And this is super, super, super dope. Here, let me just show you that one more time. We're going to use a different sample. Let me go ahead and find a sample that I like. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and make a new MIDI track. I'm going to throw a simpler in here. Go to my instruments, grab my simpler instrument, drag it down here, go back to my samples, and grab this one and drag it down. Click slice mode, and now you can see it sliced it all up down there. And see this one here where it says sensitivity? I can turn this down to get rid of some of these slices. So now I can use these two different kits that I've got here. I've got these two different channels here. Let me just go ahead and change this up here a little bit. So I'm going to go over ahead and do this one here and record into this one. Turn this down a little bit. Okay, record something in here. And now go over here to this one. Right, and go ahead and put this in poly mode. And I can just quickly make a little beat. Add some little bits in here. And if I wanted to grab another beat and throw it in, just make another track here. Put this over here, let's listen. Here, let's grab this one and throw it in here. And I'm just going to drag the sample straight down into here, and I'll show you that in just a second. And turn the sensitivity way down. There we go. And I can even move these around a little bit. Let's And you can see how I'm just grabbing these samples and messing around with these things immediately. Which is pretty darn cool. Let me see here. TMS Terry Smith says, "Hey Tony, I didn't get a chance to do this yet, but for organization project, can we do it in any DAW, or is it just in Ableton?" The organization project, any DAW, doesn't matter. All right. So, so I got these three parts here, and you can see if I, that one sounds fine. This one's got some low frequencies in here that I would probably want to mess around with a little bit. Here, let's change this filter. Change this filter to a high pass filter. There we go. There we go. So it doesn't have all those like super low frequencies. And if you wanted to like do more variety of like effects with these, you can just duplicate this out. And I'm going to go down here to my clip, MIDI clip editing here, and see this button up here. We haven't really talked about this button here, this fold button. What this does is it makes it so the clip is only going to show me the notes that are being played. So if I go over here and I click fold, now only the notes that are being played are going to be shown. So I can go ahead and get rid of that one there. These ones here, I'll get rid of these here. And now I've got that one. And I can do some effects and do some like stuff to it. Like for example, let's put like a little auto pan on it. That might sound kind of fun. There we go. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. Cool. And just with like a couple minutes worth of work, it's got a cool little beat sounding here. And I'm using sounds from these other drum loops, but I'm not using the drum loops themselves. And this is something that's a really important way of making music. And you can see that the simpler instrument in Ableton Live makes this so incredibly easy to do. It's like ridiculous how easy this is. So that's super, super cool. And let's just go over that a little bit more real quick here. Just let me step back here for a second and just kind of dive into what we have I've been showing you. So there's three playback modes in simpler. You've got classic playback mode, you've got one shot, and you've got slice. Classic plays until you release the key, and then it lets you set a loop and stuff like that. So classic mode is your basic old school simpler like sample kind of playback mode. If I go in here and let's say I want to put like some kind of a keyboard sound in here, for example. So let's go to keys. Oh, oops. Whoa. Let's go to then electric piano. And so let's see. Well, here we can use this one, whatever this is. I don't know what this is. It's some electrical box thing, and we can use this one here. Let's use this one and drag it in, and now I can just play it. Right. Or if I had a vocal kind of choir sound, like I was messing around with yesterday with that girl singing, what was her name? Sarah G. I could take one of her things here, which was this, was it this? Not that one. Stop. Okay, I can take this into that she's using here, and I'll just grab. Let's get into. Right, I'll just grab this part here, like that, and let's set a loop. Start a loop going. Turn the snap off. right, turn a little bit of fade on. Now I have her vocal. So if I wanted that sound there, I can go ahead and start putting some effects on that to make it sound a little bit better. So you can see how quickly everything gets going. All right, Ashton, I got you. Thanks for looking out there, buddy. All right, so you can see how quickly we can get things going if we know what we're doing, and that just takes practice. I mean, this is not me doing this so quickly is not because this is super easy. This is like because I've just done this so many times. I can just do it really quickly. And you know, there's definitely some things that I like to show and teach about that I'm not quite as good at, but it's just something that's really interesting to me or something I think you should know about. And you'll see me kind of slow way down because I'm not as good at it because I haven't done it as much. But using samples and things like this, especially on the computer, I've done it just so much over the course of my career that I can move really fast with it. So for me to get a loop that sounds really good, it's going to be a lot quicker for you than for you probably, just because I've struggled so much with it and over the years and learned how to do it. So that's a classic setup, and with the classic setup here, we could also say, okay, we don't want it to be super sustained. Maybe we want it to be like a plucky sound, so I'll turn the sustain down, turn my decay up, and now what we're doing is we're getting into synthesis stuff, the stuff we learned when we talked about synthesis. And it's really important for you to understand that this is literally just a continuation of synthesis. I have my envelope here, my amp envelope basically, and I turn my sustain all the way down, and I set my decay and my release up, not that much, let's put it up to like here, around 1 second or so. So now, Jonathan is asking me, hey Tony, I'm going into the school today. Do that mean I won't be present for this class? What time are you signed up to go to school today? Are you signed up for noon? Because really, you're not supposed to be signed up for the time when you have class. So that might, like, I'll let it go today, but you're not supposed to be signed. Like, if you have class from 12 to 2, you're like, I don't know. Let's talk about it. But really, you can sign up for 2 o'clock. But if you're going to be in school from 12 to 2, I mean, today it'll probably be okay. We'll, you know, because we're going to probably have class right up until 12. But in general, I want y'all to be signing up for class from 2, not from 12. But oh, thanks, Franco. Anyway, today it's cool. Let's talk about it though, and let's work it out, because I want to, you know, it's just a discussion we can have about this, because I'm sure, you know, we can come to some kind of agreement. And Franco, thanks, and hello from Argentina. Nice to meet you in Argentina. Cool. All right, so we got this in here. So I've got this vocal ooh thing, and you hear how I just totally changed that sound. Now, if we listen to this, what this sample actually started as, here, let me just duplicate this out. This sample started out as this over here, right? Like this here, like this.
Let's get into
right? And now we made it into this. Just grabbing that one part of her voice. And I don't know about y'all, but I think that's super, super dope. Like, that type of stuff is super cool to me, being able to take just little bits and pieces of that. But it means that you got to learn your gear, and it means that you have to kind of keep going and practicing with this stuff and working at it so you can get quick with it. Once you do learn that stuff, you can do some really neat things with all this. So, for example, I can go in here to my sample, and we can use the, let's go ahead and set a pitch envelope on it here, and I can have my, let's see here, let's go ahead and have an envelope here, and if we look down at my screen down here, again, this is just using what we learned about in synthesizers a couple weeks ago. All right, you hear how that works? And we can change this up to give that kind of a weird little then we could put a filter on it as well. Let's go over here and put a filter on it. There we go. And let's use a filter for the envelope. There we go. So we can get some really neat sounds. We got some cool sounds kind of going on right now with this. And I haven't even done that much. I've just taken all the knowledge from what I know about synthesizers and samples and stuff like that and kind of smashed it all together here. So that is what we've got here. So once again, going down here, let's look at this this controls panel and simpler. Here we've got our filter envelope here, which is we got our filter down across the bottom, and that you can see that in both screens, the stuff across the bottom. Here's an LFO, which I'm not really using right now, and then I'll just turn that off. And then here we've got our envelope here, and this envelope is for our amplifier. And if we go over to controls, we have our filter envelope, or we can see our filter more clearly here. We have our LFO right here. We can use that to do some stuff if we wanted to. I don't really have that. I'm not using that for anything. And then we have our pitch envelope right here. And down here we've got some like some global things. Like we've got our panning, our global panning. We've got a spread here for how wide it can be. We've got our velocity level, so the harder I hit it, the more it's going to change the level of the sound, like how loud or soft it is. Then we've got over here our transposition, which I can change the pitch. I can put it up an octave or down an octave. So I've got that there. And then we have a glide, and the glide is like a portamento, the glide between two notes. So we could make it slide around and do some stuff like that, and I can show you that a little bit later. And then this is, of course, our sample window. So that's our classic mode. So let's go ahead and just take a look at our one-shot mode as well. So I'm going to make a new track here, and this new track, let's go in and grab another sample here, and let's grab here, let's grab a phrase. Let's get, yeah, okay, so that's dance, right? So let's grab this one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag this straight onto here. So basically, my channels will look a little bit different from your channels. So, and the reason why is because I have different track layouts set up here. So when I make a new track, whether it's a MIDI track or an audio track, it automatically comes up with a utility on it. And all I did was I just put a utility on an empty track, and I right click on the track and I go save as default track, default MIDI track, default audio track, whatever. And you can have it set so it's like -5 dB, and that's why I did it, because I really want all my tracks to come in at -5 dB. If you don't have that utility on there, you can't set your level of your track from the beginning, so it's just going to create a new MIDI track and it's going to be at 0 dB, and that's fine as well, but I just like all my tracks to come in at -5 dB. So what I can do though, if you have your track here, you made a new MIDI track, and you can see over here on the right hand side it says drop an instrument or sample here. So what I can do is I can just go over here and drop my sample right there, and you'll notice that it automatically makes the instrument for me. It automatically makes this simpler instrument for me. So I'm going to go over here, I'm just going to adjust the beginning here. I'm going to turn my snap off so it doesn't automatically try to snap for me. And what that does is it just automatically creates a 0 crossing line. What annoys me about it is that sometimes you'll see that it won't be directly, especially you'll see it on the end over here. It won't be directly where you put the flag, and I don't like it to see how it's like off there. I don't love it. I don't think Ableton Live is very good at detecting that kind of stuff, so I just turn my snap off. What it tries to do is it tries to get rid of the pops and clicks. So if I put this in one-shot mode, watch what happens. I'm going to pull up this one here, and if I hit go, so if I right now, if I let go, it's going to stop playing. Right, I can do that with it. But if I turn this into one-shot mode, it's going to go ahead and play it until the end. And so it's going to play it from the beginning to the end. This is great for drum hits and stuff. It's not so good usually for a long sample like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make this shorter by grabbing the sample end. Let's just put it right there. And now. And so you can see we've got that. Now I'm going to change my scale right now. And here, let me just show you. This is something that's not sample related, but it is Ableton Live push related. And I think it's a pretty cool thing to show you. So I just want to show you this real quick. On the push, there's this button over here, down here called scale. And if I hit that button, it allows me to put my pads into all these different scales. And so we can see here, these orange ones are my root notes, and they're orange because my track is orange. So if I change my track color here to green, they become green. So now we can see all my different scales over here, and I can change my different scale types by turning this knob here. I can change to all these different scale types, which is pretty dope. Or I can also change to different keys. So this song, based on the way I played it a second ago, is actually in the key of A minor, not in the key of C major. So I want to change this to minor, and then I want to hit the button for A right here. So now we are in the key of A minor. So now, and I can play scales and stuff like that. Oh, the green does not show up very well. Here, let's put that to a different color. Let's make it kind of whatever. It looks like red on the screen, but it's actually a brownish kind of color. So now we've got this here. Right? Oops. So you can see I've gone ahead and I put that into that mode, it's in the scale. It might not be exactly the right pitch because I'm not really sure what pitch she's singing. So I might still have to go over here and mess with my transposition or something like that to make it really fit the right key. But for now it sounds okay because it's not really super a lot of pitches going on. So there's this now. Now, again, if I wanted to make this even more interesting, I would take this and run some kind of effect on her vocal. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and just grab an effect from Ableton Live. And the one I want to grab is the... Let's just try out... I want to... let's see here. Let's use... There's a few cool ones in here. The one I think I want to mess with is this. Not Redux. Frequency shifter. That's the one I want to mess with. Okay, so this one here has a cool ring modulation mode in it where we can do some really neat stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and solo her voice out. And you can hear you can do some neat, interesting stuff with it. That's kind of a cool sound. And I can put it out to the sides. Alright, we can do that kind of stuff there. Let's go ahead and... And you can hear how kind of cool that sound is there. Got an interesting little weird sound. Turn this up a little bit. Right. Yeah. Okay, so we can mess around with that. And then here's where we start to get into resampling. So let's go ahead and put that in there. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and fade this out using my envelope here for this one shot. There we go. And now let's go ahead and shape the sound even more. Let's go ahead and use let's use the erosion sample effect. Alright, and then let's put a little delay on it. And we're going to use the delay plugin here instead of the echo one because echo only comes with Live Suite. It's super dope. I love echo, and we can try it out in a second here. But I want to use delay first because delay actually comes with Live Standard. So now I've got this one here, and we're going to put this, leave it right there, and we will. Let's go ahead and use ping pong and put these at 8th notes. Alright, so I got that. Let's go ahead and use the filter here. Okay. Now, here's where things start to get really interesting and fun. Now we're going to start talking about resampling here just a little bit. And resampling is in the notes actually for tomorrow, because that's when we were supposed to go over it, but I decided to push it forward a day. So here is resampling. And resampling is sampling a sound and then running it through effects and then sampling that sound to create a new sample. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do it real quick, and then we'll take, just make sure we've got everything for simpler done, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about resampling in detail. So, so I'm going to go in here, I'm just going to grab this, I'm going to go ahead and make a new audio track. And we're going to call this one Dance Effects Bounce. And get my audio from on this track here and set it to this other one here that we had, the vocal part. Let's call this one Dance Effects Rhythm. Okay. So now we're going to get the audio from the Dance Effects Rhythm track, and I'm going to go Post Effects like this, and now we're going to hit record, and we're just going to start recording this. And I'm going to go ahead and let's solo this out. And while this is doing it, I'm going to go ahead and mess with this. Right, and I can change my feedback up. Let's go ahead and change that up. And let's go ahead and hit play on this again. Now it's going to loop this, and I can go ahead and put this and mess around with this. Let's change this feedback up to like here. Oh, it acts a little bit differently from other delays. Alright. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I'll put a different delay on this, and you can hear how a different delay responds to this, which is really cool. A little bit cooler than this one. This one's alright. It's not my favorite for weird sounds. So anyway, we have this. And now, I'm going to go ahead and stop this one from playing. Let's solo these out. Go over here, and we have all these weird sounds that we just made, these little loops. Let's just grab this loop here. And again, this is putting together all the stuff that we did last week and the week before with Ableton Live. And move this through. And then what we could also do is take this and quantize it, which is going to be kind of a weird thing. Let's see what happens when we quantize this. Turn my 16th notes on, and let's just mess with this a little bit here. Let's put it into beats, preserve the transients right here, preserving the transients, and I'm going to put this to no looping here. Turn this down. And I'll just move these around. And you hear how it's changing the sound around. It's making it super weird. It's giving us this really cool little loop. Right, there we go. This is going in with our drums over here. And you can hear how like really interesting we can make this from starting from like nothing pretty much, all right? So that's kind of the basis. Let's just go back over here and talk a little bit more about the simpler instrument just to make sure we're good with it. All right, so basically the slice mode here, going back to the slice mode, clean up the sample you want to use, create a new MIDI track, insert a simpler device on the MIDI track, drag the audio clip into the simpler, click slice mode button and adjust the slices as needed. So just to go back into this real quick, little review before we stop here for a break. What we're going to do here is make a new MIDI track and we're going to drag the simpler instrument into it. And this first one here which says clean up the sample you want to use. So basically what I'm talking about here is just making sure your sample is all nice and tidy and it's not too long. So I'm going to make an audio track here, and if I go in here to one of these samples, sample phonics, let's go to, let's see, these are going to be all one shots. Let's go to these tribal house loops. Let's see, let's say we want to grab a tribal house loop. Here, drums, let's go to our beats. And let's say you want to grab something from this one here. If I want to clean it up, this, we can see this loop is a 1-bar loop, so it doesn't really need to clean up too much, but here, let's see if we can find one that's a bigger one actually. Here, let's go back over to here. Sample libraries. What's in my random stuff? Okay, all these, like, I've got all these like weird vinyl. Well, not these. Wait, hold on, that's not the wrong one. Right one. Yeah, okay, ultimate breaks and beats. These are all like, this is like an old sample library. Basically, these are full songs. So what I can do here, let's turn the warp off on this and grab this. All right, let's say I want to grab that first drum loop in the beginning. I don't need the whole song, so I just grab this first part here. All right, so I got that there, and I can take that, crop it, and now drag this into this one over here. So I'll make sure I've got my instrument, not the instrument rack, I've got the simpler, and drag the sample in here, and now hit the slice button. When you're cutting out the noise in the track, are you creating more processing for your PC stopping and going? When you're cutting out the noise, well, basically, are you talking about like the kind of silence before the beginning of the track starts, you know, for the cleanup process? Then the answer is no, not really. You're not creating more work for your PC, because what you're doing is you're just moving the parts over what it's playing. And if it's not playing something, it's not doing more work. Sampling is actually really light on your computer. I think that's the question you're asking. Sampling is actually super light on your computer. That's why we should kind of use samples as much as possible and get into doing that, because it doesn't really use up much processing power on your computer. So let's say I've got this sample here. If you look at my screen and I grab the end point of the sample and I move it over, this grayed out area over here doesn't take up more processor power. What it does do is it takes up more memory on my computer. So if I have, like if I'm sampling from a movie, for example, I don't want to have the whole movie loaded into my sampler and then only using 1 second of dialogue from the movie. That would be a huge waste, because the audio from the movie is going to be like a gigabyte or more. So what I really want to do is I want to take that movie, I want to crop it like I just did. And we're going to talk in detail more about that, go into like really detail about cleaning up your samples and stuff like that, and why we do it and stuff like that. So, but basically here, I just crop the sample. So if all I want to do is get rid of this last part of the sample here, that's not a big deal. That's like cool. We can do that all day and all night, and that's not going to take up extra memory on our computer, or extra processor or much memory, because this sample is probably a couple of 100K, It's not even a megabyte. So now I've got this sample here, and if I solo it out, and I've got all these little loops here. Now what I can do is I can make these go into my song, but I'm not sure if these are going to actually warp correctly because of the... Let's see if this warps correctly. No, that's definitely not going to warp correctly. And we'll come back and talk about making sure everything's warped correctly if you really wanted to grab this part. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of these bits here. So now, move this over here. Right? And then I can use the transposition here to make it fit the tempo of my song a little bit easier. So if we play these here, go ahead and play everything. And if I want to get rid of that low frequency there, so I just want to use the shakers for this, I can do that. Right. And then here. And once I've got this loop in here, let's go ahead and make this like this here. I'm going to go ahead and double that up. And now, or what I can do is actually put this marker here and put that marker there. And what I'm doing is I'm just going in here and cleaning this up a little bit inside of here. And now, go back to my clip and make it so these every other one is right there. Cool. And it's not great because I'm doing it super quick and I'm just kind of showing y'all how to do it, but we're getting somewhere. Make it rain on whoever. So that's what's up with that, just kind of getting back into that slice mode there. And you can slice it up. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little break. Let's be back here at 10:50. Take a 10-minute break. And then once we take that 10-minute break, we're going to talk a little bit more about cleaning up stuff and resampling. All right, because they all kind of tie in together a little bit, all right? So 10 minutes, I'm going to keep playing the Future Sound of London here.